For most of my life, my parents have always told me to take notes. Again, and again, and again. And so I've spent years taking notes on different subjects and refining them into a super effective blueprint that has gotten me a 98 overall in my senior year of high school. And in this video, I'm going to show you that blueprint and my thought process behind how I take notes so that you can get the same 98% or higher overall, just like I did. First, I want to highlight a very big mistake that a lot of people make when writing notes, which is using a computer. Now, I know a lot of people might have to use a computer because the class is very fast-paced or the content is very heavy, but at the end of the day, when you're reviewing and you're studying for a test, you should be handwriting the notes again to really ensure that you memorize. And the reason why I say this is because you memorize better when you write out the notes, since there's a direct connection to your brain and what your hand is writing out. If you don't believe me, go look it up. Anyways, everyone writes notes differently. Some people are thorough, others are simplistic, some are artistic, and some autistic.
Wait, did you just say autistic?
Yeah, did you know Albert Einstein's autistic?
Oh. But what the fuck does that have to do with...
Anyways, no matter what style of note-taking you have, you should always have these 4 things in your notes. You want to have a title, because obviously without a title, what the hell are you doing? Next is your key point. Now this is the main message to whatever you are trying to make yourself remember, whether it is a concept, a formula, a certain historic event, whatever it is, maybe make a quick sentence or write down the formula to show it. The third thing is application. Now, from here on out, it's mostly examples in the sense that now we got to apply whatever the key point is to a scenario that you will most likely see on a test. For example, if I was doing math and I was using, let's say, the distance formula, I would then have a question that's related to finding distance. And then lastly, this is a thought experiment portion where if you have a little bit more time, you probably won't be able to do this during class, but if you have a little bit more time and you want to really ensure that you understand, take some thinking questions, things that are like 2-step, 3-step questions that you have to go through loops and mental gymnastics in order to find the answer. And this will really help with just understanding the concept at its core, because you have to apply it to multiple things to do. And don't worry if this sounds confusing, because I'm going to show you multiple examples with different subjects right now. Okay, so I'm going to show you a real-time example of how I write my notes, starting with math, okay? So obviously we're going to follow the blueprints. I'm just going to do factored form for this one. So you don't have to understand what I'm writing about exactly, but you need to understand the blueprint and exactly how easy it is to use it. So here I have my title, obviously, and bear with my bad handwriting. But next you have your key point. Now usually when we do math or we do physics, it will be a formula. So I will write my formula right here. And after you write your formula, now sometimes you can have a extra explanation, right? Maybe you don't understand the formula, so you can have an extra explanation like this formula is to find the vertex, for example, right? It's just some quick side note to explain the concept a little bit further. And then for the rest of it, it's literally just examples. And so for the first one, it should be application, it should be easy, shouldn't be anything very difficult at all. And I'm going to show you one right here. Okay, so as you can see, this is a very quick example. You can have multiple, it doesn't really matter, but you should try and fill up the entire page if you can. And, you can highlight, you can do all sorts of side notes, for example. You can say, oh, we do this, whatever, you can just write like, we do this because of whatever. And for the thought experiment portion, it's pretty straightforward as well. It's basically just the application portion I just wrote, but with the questions that's a little bit harder. So just to not waste your time, I'm not going to show it, but I usually write it on the back page. And yeah, that's kind of how I write math notes and physics notes in general. And you might be thinking, oh, this only works with math and numbers, but in reality, it's just math and physics and equation stuff is usually more simple when it comes to the blueprint, but you can do it with everything, I assure you. And so here is a note that I took when I was in grade 11 chemistry. Again, you don't have to understand anything, but here, we have our title, right? So this is our title, and then over here, this is our key point. So I'm going to highlight it for you just so it's easier to understand. There you go, key point. Now under here you might be thinking, hey, this is not an example. Remember what I said, sometimes you can have key notes. I like to make the asterisk here, but I like to have, side notes to explain the key points sometimes, because it might not be clear or summarized in one sentence. Okay, and then down here you have your examples, lots of side notes as you can see over here. But again, example, example, lots of examples. So it works for a lot of different things. You just kind of have to get a little bit creative with it. But at the end of the day, as long as you remember the blueprint, you should be fine. Now, some of you might be thinking, what about even more complex or even more theory-based topics like history? Now, I'm not going to lie to you. History might be a little bit different or take a little bit longer, but remember, it's the act of writing stuff down that'll help you memorize the information, not just so that you can look at it later. Taking notes on it with my blueprint is still 100% plausible and still effective. And here's how. Let's say I want to write a note on D-Day, what happened in D-Day during World War II. Now I will write my title, I'll write my key point, this stuff never changes. I'll say maybe the date and what happened that day or that battle, right? Because we are doing retelling and not necessarily calculations or solving problems, we're retelling a story almost, we will break it down into chunks, right? So in the first major portion of the note, I can list some bullet points on what happened before the fight, right? What led up to it, what were the preparations, who were involved, whatever. I can save another portion for, okay, this is what happened during the fight. List a couple of bullet points there, and then at the end I can say this is the aftermath, who won, who lost, what was the impact, boom. And so at the end of the day, it all really comes down to being able to fit the blueprint into whatever you're doing, because the blueprint works, but it takes a little bit of time to adapt and kind of, apply it to the subject that you want. And don't get me wrong, there's certain subjects that it might be better for, it might be worse for, but as long as you put in work, there's no reason why it cannot help you in the end. And so I hope this video has helped. I tried doing a new style, which is, more hand cam work. And yeah, you guys let me know whether or not that's something that you want to see more in the future of and whatnot. But yeah, leave me as much feedback as you can. And if you haven't already, I've been trying to incorporate more podcast work and more student coaching work into some of my YouTube videos. And so if you want to see more of that, let me know as well. If you're not too sure, you can go look it up on my channel. If you want to be part of one of these videos, become a member or look out for any community posts. Sometimes I ask for volunteers. Thanks again. Bye-bye.